Thanks for the opportunity, guys, from the Marketing Club of Macquarie Business School for giving me this opportunity to talk about it. And I just put this tree of things that all marketers talk pretty much day in, day out at any given point in time. I'm sure you've been exposed to a lot of these things as well. So if you see that root of the tree, I've put those five different categories that are kind of where the roots are, and then as you go on top of the tree, you see a lot of branches and shoots. All right, cool. Again, a little bit of introduction about myself. Like David mentioned, I'll start off with the flags of the countries where I've lived, some of the markets that I've worked in, just in case you can't recognize any of them. Maybe the third one is Singapore, so that's the probably the only one that not as common as the other three. And like this smattering of companies that I've worked. So like what David mentioned, my kind of breakthrough into marketing really happened at Google in Australia. And before that, I've done like lots of different. I actually started off as a software developer at Infosys, and then I've done like technical product marketing at which I did at Philips. That's kind of when I really started falling in love with product marketing in general. It's like consumer marketing. It's trying to understand consumer psychology. All that was really fascinating, especially coming from a background of being an engineer. Prior to that, it was all like extremely structured and logical. There was nothing called behavioral difference and all of those things. I just found that area so fascinating. I said I had to combine all of the my structured knowledge of engineering with user psychology. Really, I worked at Westpac, which is how just after business school, that's how we landed in Australia. So both my wife and I got offered jobs at Westpac, so did that, and then I got this job as a sales strategy and sales operations manager at Google, and then uh, which made me ready to pitch myself as a potential marketer. I still had made my breakthrough into marketing. I know a lot of you are already into marketing, so that's really well done. This took me a long time to get here. Uh, and yeah, my first breakthrough happened in Smart Group, which is like this massive B2B marketing organization, primarily sales driven, and then like Crossbar and ShareSite. I put the picture of Life of Pi there. I like to think of my journey similar to that of that story. To begin with, I come from the same place where the story begins as well. So that's a city in India called Pondicherry. And yeah, been through some rough waters. And the Royal Bengal tiger, in my case, has mostly been my own self-doubt. So it's me, myself, my imposter syndrome, all of those things, navigating the world of extremely experienced people in various spheres of life, including marketing. So yeah, I finally think I feel comfortable in my own skin. Uh, so yeah, just part of the talk. I'll give you more details about that. So again, to set context of various frameworks out there about marketing in general. Back in the day, there was this book written by Al Ries called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. It's kind of, the way the moment somebody says something is so definite and so certain, run away from them. That's my first takeaway from that. None of these are laws, none of them are immutable either. But that's the context in which most of us marketers have been given a lot of uh, text and like various lessons and whatnot. Then you've got Byron Sharp, which was the seven rules for brand growth, how brands grow. Pretty impressive piece of research-based book, which brought out a uh, lot of context about how brands grow, really. A lot of it, of course, came from the consumer FMCG kind of world, but a lot of them are very applicable across everything. And on the right hand side, you see these increasingly complex pictures of the landscape of various marketing technology companies that are out there. And there's so many popping up every day, literally. They pick a really niche problem that marketers face and try to solve it. And a lot of marketing lingo, along with the guys on top there, you see is a framework from HubSpot. As you know, they champion the whole idea of inbound marketing, and they've got their own set of frameworks. The context there is that a lot of marketing uh, terminologies that you hear today, especially in the B2B world, not and also in the B2C to a good extent, is from a lot of martech companies. They defined technology to work in a certain way, and then forced everyone to start thinking in those particular lines. So we having to constantly balance the different aspects of marketing, be it from a technology point of view, process point of view, as well as the brand point of view. And nowhere is it more relevant than when it comes to fintech marketing. So in fintech, it's kind of like a cousin to martech. Really, you try to apply the same principles. We've also been schooled by HubSpot and Marketo and Adobe and Salesforce, all these guys. They have fantastic educational content out there. And they've done a massive job of raising the profile of marketers. However, not all the things that they've put out there are necessarily true in every context. So we are constantly having to adapt and learn as we go in different contexts. So that's the context in which fintech marketing operates, and it's a huge learning curve for anyone who gets into this area. Cool. So without that, without much delay, the way I've structured this is 10 learnings. So some of these might be motherhood statements for you. You might already know them. But most of them are kind of myth busting sort of format is what I've taken. So that, yeah, it's useful and applicable in a day-to-day context. And so I've called them 10 lessons. So lesson number one, the number one thing, be it fintech, be it martech, any other form of marketing, I would say everything in marketing begins with attribution. And what I mean by that is, uh, this is a sample dashboard of one of the attribution tools that I use. Various types of, various types of channels and campaigns that are going on in this particular dashboard. But importantly, try to match every possible dollar spend to a revenue outcome. And as marketers, this is a really important language that we need to learn and speak, because revenue is the language of finance, revenue is the language of business. As well as like revenue is key, and with attribution, the additional component that you get exposure to is profitability. So you have revenue, profitability, and the spend. And in a lot of startups, in a lot of contexts, you always find that budgets are not really kind of set. You kind of you It's kind of like a video game. Like you do level one attribution and you prove that it works, and that unlocks to the next level. You go to the level two, you show your worth, go to level three then. And then you fail at level three, you fall back to level two, build your credibility again, and then go back. So it's a lot of that. And the number one thing I would encourage all of you aspiring marketers is to get to know your attribution models really well. And it doesn't have to be super complex. It doesn't have to be on this particular system. It can begin with a spreadsheet, really. And I've just put a couple of examples over here where uh, of particular companies where it's, what contribution from what channel did I get for my leads, as an example, which is the chart on the left, and a more detailed acquisition costs for various stages of the funnel on the right. So again, to recap, attribution, uh, matching costs to revenue generation and profitability, super important. That's the language of business. That's the language of finance. That's the language your CFO understands. That's the language the CEO understands. So that's really, really important. The second one is a slightly contradictory one, because we are marketers after all. Um, uh, we are marketers, and the challenge is you go down the path of extreme amounts of attribution, then you start losing your way in terms of creativity. And that's a real challenge for us. And I've been in that boat where, like I mentioned, I come from an engineering background. When I started some of these roles, where if something was not attributable, that sounded like bullshit to me. Uh, but over time, you grow up and you accept reality, which is that not everything is easy to measure. Now, what do you mean by that? What do I mean by that? You've got broadly, you've got brand marketing and performance marketing. Uh, what attribution you get out of brand marketing or performance marketing is really clear. It's really easy to understand. I can scale something, like if I say that's the line, that's the slope of the line. I put $100, I'll get so much. If I put $200, I'll get so much. So until there's a point of diminishing return. Now, when it comes to a lot of above the line activity, which is again really important when it comes to any kind of startup, you are trying to grow awareness. You want more people to recognize the brand. You have to do a lot of above the line activity. Um, again, and above the line does not necessarily mean TV or radio or massive billboards or anything like that. To me, even like display advertising, which is of more acquisition type, like the brand awareness type display advertising, is also above the line. Now think about this yourself. When was the last time you saw a banner and clicked on it, right? But however, you do get other forms of attribution, like maybe if you're exposed to a brand a certain number of times, you will then go and search that term, and then uh, you get attribution that way. So again, to summarize that, you have to measure everything, but not everything is measured through the same lens. Otherwise, you're always going to lose out on anything that's a bit more long term. You'll end up focusing extreme short term stuff. And again, I've got plenty of examples where I've done that myself. It's always easy to allocate stuff to things that work, scale things that work, but you always do end up reaching a point of diminishing return when it comes to that. Cool. Which basically, where I concluded the previous point is that you need to have a certain amount of brand marketing. When I say brand marketing, it's like firstly creating a brand, and also letting people interact with it. And when it comes to a brand, it's really easy for us to jump into like the visual design, the logo, how does the creative look, and all of those things. As marketers, it's really important for us to always start with purpose. So remember, the first point was you always need to know how profitable your marketing activity is. And you combine that with the third point, which is brand always starts with purpose. And what do I mean by that? This little iceberg that I use frequently to educate my own stakeholders on what exactly is a brand. The bottom of that iceberg is really the purpose. Why do you exist as a business? What is the big problem that you're trying to solve? And everything begins with that. And then you build other parts of that iceberg on top of that. What are the core values of the business? And a lot of these are, either in conjunction with your co-founders, but as marketers, we play a really important role in actually deciphering all of these things. It's all sitting in people's heads, be it your co-founders, your investors, or CEOs. But it's a job of us marketers to kind of tease that out and actually translate all of those feelings and emotions into real words. And so yeah, that's a really critical part. And the team, there's a huge element of culture that's all as part of that iceberg, and just the visible components of it is just around the key messaging and visual identity. Everything else is below, and it's really critical. Again, plenty of examples from my experience where I've always started from the top, and then you hit a brick wall and say, okay, no, that's wrong. We need to finish all of these underlying pieces of work before we get to that visual identity components. I saw this ad that came up a little bit on, I think I saw this on one of the social media channels, and this was fascinating, right? Like Netflix is able to do brand ads like this as a performance. As someone who's grown up in performance marketing, I'm looking at it. Oh, what do you want me to do? Like, where's the button? Where's the sign up button? It's a billboard, but still, like, what's the call to action? But this is one of those out there inspirational brand messages. And the way the whole brand works is by building memory structures and recognition around what is it that this company stands for, and then you're able to then identify with it and then go with it. So that's the summary of that third key lesson. My fourth point here is it's kind of like complementary to the third one, which is that after you've done all of those things and enabled brand to be recognizable, you've built memory structures which your audience is able to relate to. They're able to memorize it and use it. Ultimately, all of that comes from a lot more things. So yes, we need the brand foundation based on which you run the brand marketing, but then you've got the performance marketing, retention marketing, and then you've got a whole other suite of things, including customer service, ongoing engagement, or what have you. And every interaction you have with people out there is equal to brand. So brand is really an outcome. And again, a lot of times us marketers as well as designers in particular could lose this idea that brand is actually I'm creating a brand. No, you're not creating a brand. You create certain elements of the foundation and you let it loose out there in the world. And the brand is created by the people who consume it. Um, and Nowhere else is it more relevant than when you're trying to create a new brand. Most of us in fintech are obviously working on absolutely brand new companies. Like even if you consider the likes of Afterpay, uh, it almost has become a verb. It's that good a brand, and obviously they had a really good start with the name itself. It's so intuitive, so easy to understand what it is they do. So similarly, it's the case with any other sort of brands that we build. All right, and getting into a little more detail about again what type of marketing should we focus on, and I call this lesson as acquisition and retention are both important, and this is kind of where you see a lot of conflicting messaging in the marketing literature out there. You often see someone saying that forget about retention, acquisition is everything. Then you get the other mob that say retention, okay, buy this system from me, buy this extremely beautiful marketing technology component from me, and I will make sure that nobody ever leaves you, and you're able to predict all of these things. So, three key things that I've learned over time. Acquisition is more expensive, no doubt about it. Um, Retention drives word of mouth. So, unless you have really happy customers, you're not going to get that word of mouth. And word of mouth is by far the cheapest acquisition channel. And at an early stage in a company, there is absolutely nothing more important than having your raving customers, your fanboys recommending you. So from that point of view, retention activities are super important. Acquisition is important just because all the platforms that we use are getting more and more expensive by the day. So try running a Google ad or a Facebook ad. Um, there's the competition for attention and mind space of consumers is massive. So audience is really expensive to reach. And the final point, which not a lot of people give credit to, is when it comes to retention teams, like especially like again coming back to my experience at Prosper, there was this massive retention team that you that would be get credit for a particular retention activity. So and then you have various customers, so be it at Prosper or even at ShareSide, customers leave, right? People leave a business due to whatever reason, they don't need your product. Um, and then they come back after some time because the need for the product is again there. And often what happens is whether it's in case of win back strategies, so people who've actually left the books and come back. I know some of you have worked in membership marketing. I think I saw one of you has actually worked in membership marketing. A member doesn't renew her her membership to a particular organization. They've gone. Uh, Two things can happen. You win back through acquisition strategies, and which usually gets counted as retention because that's not a new to business customer. The second thing is simply that acquisition activities can work as reminders for retention work. So if someone's due to pay their invoice and they've kind of been postponing it, I'll get to it later. It's the acquisition and the advertising that happens that reminds people actually, oh, okay, I need to go back and do this thing. It can work whether it's even something as simple as a utility, like an acquisition ad can remind you to pay your electricity bill. On the other hand, in fintech, obviously, it's far more important because like renewal is a big deal. Like, we want to keep renewing, and the idea of retention is that ultimately retention works in increasing the lifetime value of a customer. So you've already acquired this customer. The longer you hold this customer, the lifetime value increases, and that plays into a lot of other aspects as well, including a lot of profitability metrics. Cool. Now here I'm putting on my fintech and investing hat in particular. This is something that I'm extremely fortunate to have learned through ShareSite. So let me go back, rewind. ShareSite is a fintech platform, like David mentioned. We are a, a platform for investors to put all their investments in one single place and let you track it. So the easiest way to describe it is like we're a Fitbit for investing. You, which means that you go do your workout elsewhere, but just wear it, and you will tell you how you're performing. And the purpose of our existence is really to help investors make smart investment decisions. Um, and through this job, I've had the fortune of reading and learning a lot about investing, um, and investing particularly, not trading. So let me make it really clear. Yeah, investing is a long-term strategy. Trading is a daily activity, and marketing is very much like investing. The number of similarities actually is phenomenal. So, what are the common things that I've learned from investing? The battle between focus and diversification. Um, just to break the monotony of my monologue, if you can put a thumbs up if any of you have any investments in the stock market. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so when you invest in the stock market, it's always um, it's a hard one, and I find this a struggle as well. Like, do I research and go deep into one particular company, or should I diversify, just buy a basket of ETFs that'll help me achieve um, a broad set of index goals, right? So at least I can't lose the index if I buy a broad index ETF. Whereas if I go really focused and pick one particular stock, I might lose all the money. So there's a constant battle between focus and diversification, and marketing is a lot like that. You know, on the one hand, you want to pick your focus. You have like a bunch of things that are working. You want to go deep into those, but at the same time, you want to keep a balance on the diversification angle as well. One of the hardest things is, should we sell and book a profit or invest more in what's working? Um, and this again plays back to that focus versus diversification angle. If I have five channels for acquisition that are in play, um, the the one part of the theory says, okay, if something works, keep scaling it till it doesn't work. The other thing is, let's say you've already reached the saturation point of one or two channels, then you're starting to look at other factors to diversify into, other channels to diversify into. You want to start building on other activities, marketing activities that help you with that diversification. And that's another thing that's completely similar, very, very similar to investing. Um, the third point is moats. So investing, you always hear the term moats, which basically refers to a distinct competitive advantage over any of the other people in that particular sector. It's not easy to replicate the business model or the unique advantage that places a particular company. In marketing, that moat, the most important moat, is with regards to SEO and organic traffic. There is no substitute to that. Paid channels are like are like drugs. It's easy to buy. Anyone can buy them. Anyone can scale them. It's just the man with the heaviest purse that gets to win on paid channels. SEO, on the other hand, organic traffic, content, on the other hand, is a massive patience game. And the longer you play it, the more your moat, the wider your moat gets. And it's a really classical thing that it's a patience game. And like I said, asset allocation is a lot like channel and budget allocation. When you have a set amount of budget to allocate, you're constantly evaluating various investment options, which is exactly how an investment manager works. Warren Buffett's lectures and Charlie Munger's uh, talks on how they pick various stocks are as relevant uh, to investing as they are to marketing. Uh, so if you've heard the term value investing, there's a similar uh, concept in marketing as well, where all channels do play an important role, but it's the price at which you get them that's really critical. And that's the part that's extremely common to both investing and to marketing. Okay, I'll keep going. Lesson number 7 that I've learned is marketing strategy trumps channel selections. Again, quick thumbs up if any of you listen to Gary Vee. Um, so Gary Vee is like phenomenally energetic. He's got his real points of view, and he tells you how just go shoot a video, walk around the campus, shoot some video, cut it into 15 different videos, and launch it into the universe, and it's all going to pay back, and these kind of stuff. However, it's that execution part is really good. However, if you haven't thought about what is the strategy you're playing to, it can get extremely disruptive to what is it that you're trying to say. So again, there's all of these channels. There's so many things, and there's a new channel popping up every day. Like even last week, we actually had this debate on should we be on TikTok, right? So we're trying to sell an investment tracking portfolio tracker. Most of our paid users are typically like the older demographic, or when I say older demographic, at least into their 30s. Uh, so does TikTok play a role? Well, according to audience insights, according to market research, apparently it does. There's so much content on TikTok now. There's actually a whole hashtag called FinTok, where it's a lot about how finfluencers keep spruiking various asset classes to invest in, and it's become such a big problem that ASIC actually has started investigating a lot of finfluencers on whether it's investment advice, because I can give you any advice if I don't have to be held accountable for it. Um, and it's free, right? So that's really critical. But these are examples of everyday conversations that we have to look at as marketers. Like, okay, there's obviously cutting edge stuff that's coming out, but is it relevant? Um, and if I have a choice between scaling more on search ads versus some other new channel that's going to come tomorrow and look it up, you again have to make that objective valuation. Again, it's coming back to that whole overall uh, marketing strategy, which is similar to our investment strategy, and then evaluate every investment on its own merit, um, and stay open to all of it. All right, now getting into some of the more messaging heavy parts of marketing. Um, Again, this comes to more of the creative executions, and the key lesson there is who is the hero of your message. And what I mean by that is, I want to illustrate this point with election campaigning, right? So this is not fintech, but there's a message here. 2016 elections. If you see the two candidates that put up their message, one says I'm with her, the other one says Make America Great Again. And which one do you think got more cut through to the audience of America? Right. So anyway, we know that what happened in terms of the result. It definitely, like, you always have to consider who's the recipient of this message and what does it mean. Like, what does it mean to them? And that's the critical part. Like, this is something that we always have to evaluate. So again, when it comes to product marketing, when it comes to marketing your fintech, your startup, any company, it's very, very convenient for us, and we forget that the hero of the story is actually the customer, the audience that's reading that message. It's not our fantastic, shiny new product. And that's the key message. And again, it's really easy to fall into that trap. Hey, look at me. I've got this super cool technology here. This is going to solve all your problems. What you're doing is you're being the hero. Whereas what I highly encourage all of you to do is always think any message, even an email you write, always think who's the hero. And I encourage all marketers to be more guides, or as any Star Wars fans, we are the Yodas. We are not the Luke Skywalkers. So speak the Yoda language, uh, get credibility. That's who we are when it comes to being the hero. We're not the heroes. We are the coaches. We show customers how our product can really help them and remove any kind of self-doubt they might have, and they are really the hero. Okay, continuing on the same journey, um, and creative execution is key. And again, what I mean by this is, uh, if you think of today, most marketers have access to some amazing targeting tools, right? You can find some really cool stuff on Facebook, people who like something and have read that particular book, and you can get so specific, so targeted today. And pretty much through various ad tech platforms, through different sets of agencies, even we all have access to that kind of targeting. I mean, yes, sure, some targeting can be more specific, but if you look at Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, these are extremely advanced AI companies. They have a lot of smarts already in them. So that part of targeting is available to everyone. So how do you really differentiate? And that's where the creative comes into play. And this is where us marketers have to keep balancing that art and science. So the science part of it is really clear, but the art part of it is also really, really important. And that's where creative execution is really critical. So these are some of the new ads that we are trialing, and some of them uh, have started achieving some pretty good cut through in terms of again, like how did we start? Like we obviously didn't have so much of design capability. So, all we would show was screenshots of our product. Look at this fantastic product. Um, but over time, we trying to bring that human touch to all our messaging. And if you read all the messages there, it comes back to that whole hero message. Who is the hero of the message? Who's who's really going to gain from what we have to offer? And so, yeah, this is a never ending learning loop of creative execution. And no matter how advanced all the other parts of marketing gets, it's really important to come back and put simple language back into marketing. Okay, this is a big claim, that yeah, we are change makers in outside and inside the organization. And what do I mean by that? Um, to begin with, we have a fantastic job of always being externally focused. You take any organization, we are the people who look outside. We know the audience, we know our customers. So outside the company, you are obviously already change agents and change makers. But inside the company, that's something that we always forget. Unless people inside the company buy the message, buy the messaging, buy all the things that we are talking externally, it's not going to work if you can't sell it internally. Um, so just kind of the balancing act, and the it's kind of weird that yeah, I bring Gandhi into marketing presentation, but I really like that quote of be the change you wish to see in the world is really important, and it's very relevant. And again, you can see, if you boil it down to the basics, his messaging was primarily marketing, right? So he was able to inspire so many people to come and join the movement. And that's where you have to make that change both outside and inside your organization. And I just put that other little chart there, which talks about all the different elements and of an organization that you need to influence. And this is both challenging and very exciting. It's extremely empowering to know that you have it in you to make this change happen. And especially when it comes to new markets, when it comes to fintechs, we are creating new products. It's bringing technology into a very old finance world, and it's even more relevant there, to be the change agent both internally and externally. Uh, so yeah, that's the key message there. The last one, even though I said it's 10 lessons, no, I can't count. But the 11th one is really is true for, it doesn't matter what marketing you go into. This is going to happen, and it's going to happen because you're making some really important changes in the world. So again, this is how it works. The imposter syndrome, it's real. I know many of you would have felt this through your study itself. Like when you put into so much pressure, you work with all these really smart group mates of yours, and some people are sound very smart. But the way the whole psychology works is just this: like you think you know only so much, and what others know is so much more. So you always fear being sounding dumb and not smart enough. But yeah, the reality is more like what the picture is on the right hand side. This is something that you will definitely go through. All of us go through this. Make it real. If you're feeling it, that means you're pushing boundaries, and you're doing something good. So just embrace it. Yeah. And that's really all I had.